If you've played Toxic Commando and you're still trying to figure out which weapon is worth your time, or worse, wasting ammo on something that doesn't deliver what it promises, this video is exactly what you needed. This game throws you into a world infested with mutants and tells you survive. And the difference between dying in the second horde or destroying everything on screen lies directly in your loadout. I went deep, tested everything this arsenal has to offer, and narrowed it down to the 10 weapons that are, honestly, broken in a good way. The ones that make you feel like you're in the movie. So, no fluff, let's see what's actually worth equipping. I'll be honest with you, when I first picked up the RK-103, my thought was, oh, just another generic rifle. And you know what happened? It spent the whole game proving me wrong. This is the kind of weapon that doesn't impress you the first time you equip it, but it earns your respect mission after mission, enemy after enemy. Think about it. It's basically the AK-47 of Toxic Commando. And look, that nickname isn't a coincidence. Its damage per shot is among the highest of any automatic rifle in the game, and the magazine is generous enough that you rarely feel punished for dumping everything into a group of enemies. Facing a common enemy, the ARK-103 handles it. An elite mutant appears in front of you, it softens them up nicely before you even need to switch weapons. The main reason it's here in 10th place, and not higher, is the fire rate. When the horde starts closing in from all sides at once, the difference between the ARK-103 and the top tier rifles becomes very visible. It isn't as forgiving as others when you're being swallowed by 20 zombies at once. In extreme pressure scenarios, you'll feel that. But don't let this 10th place spot fool you. The ARK-103 is a solid, reliable weapon that works in almost any situation. If you like a more aggressive playstyle at mid-range, it will serve you very well. It's a safe choice for those still discovering the game, or for those who want a strong alternative without depending on the top tiers. Sometimes the reliable classic is exactly what you need. There's a specific moment in Toxic Commando that everyone who's played knows exactly what I'm talking about. That instant when you turn the camera and realize there's a wall of mutants heading your way, and your brain simply screams, I need something explosive now. That's exactly when the Hailstorm MGL stops being just a weapon and becomes a lifesaver. What makes it so special is its ability to stack explosive damage continuously. Unlike a standard grenade launcher that gives you a shot, a pause, a shot, the Hailstorm can maintain a rain of explosions that covers an area and hits multiple enemies at once. When the horde is dense and you don't even have room to breathe, it clears the path in a way few weapons in the game can. But the reason it's in 9th place and not higher has a name: ammo. You're going to miss it dearly during the game's tensest moments. The Hailstorm is greedy, and if you don't have the discipline to save those shells for situations that truly demand a nuclear solution, you'll find yourself holding an empty grenade launcher at the worst possible time. Managing its stock is almost a separate skill within the game. Ultimately, the Hailstorm MGL is that weapon you carry with a smile, knowing that when things get truly ugly, you have an answer. It's not your everyday primary, but it's the one you call when the situation spirals out of control. Think of it as the fire extinguisher of your loadout. You hope you don't need it, but you're very grateful when you do. There's an art to knowing when to swap weapons, and the Cazul 6 is proof that a good secondary can be just as important as any primary in your loadout. You know that moment when you're in the middle of a reload at the worst possible timing with a mutant already at your throat? The Cazul 6 is the exact answer to that problem. You draw, fire 1 or 2 shots, and the problem is solved before it turns into a catastrophe. What sets it apart from any other secondary in the game is the absurd damage per shot. Most pistols in this type of game are just for buying time, but the Cazul 6 goes beyond that. It has real punch, that impact you feel on the screen and think, wow, that was a secondary? Against medium enemies, 2 or 3 well-placed shots handle the situation elegantly without wasting your primary weapon's ammo. What keeps it in 8th place is precisely what defines any revolver: the small cylinder and the slow reload. When you have more than one target in front of you and start bleeding ammo by missing shots due to pressure, you'll hit its limit very fast. It wasn't made to sustain prolonged combat, It was made to solve specific situations with precision, and when you use it outside of that purpose, it starts to disappoint. But within its role, the Casol 6 is almost perfect. If you're the type of player who likes to have a quick, powerful answer in your pocket for critical moments, you're going to fall in love with it. It's one of those weapons that teaches you to have confidence in your secondary, rather than treating it like loadout decoration. In the right hands, with the right timing, it saves your skin more often than you'd imagine. When you first pick up the PA-C15, there's an immediate feeling that you're holding something refined. It's not that weapon that screams in your hand with wild recoil and deafening noise. It's calculated, precise, controlled. And in a game where you're frequently aiming at targets moving in unpredictable directions, having a weapon that goes exactly where you point makes a huge difference in your survival. The comparison with the HW416 is inevitable because both live in the same category and compete for the same loadout slot. And look, the PA-C15 doesn't lose this fight by any means. It simply plays a different game. While the HW416 has more aggressiveness and raw damage, the PA-C15 compensates with recoil control that allows you to maintain precise bursts for longer, especially at mid to long ranges where every wasted shot is costly. The 7th place spot reflects exactly the only point where it falls behind the weapons above it, the potential ceiling in total chaos situations. When the screen fills with enemies and you need immediate area destruction, its precision starts to be less relevant than you'd like. In those moments of pure panic, you'll wish for a bit more raw damage or area effect. And that's where the top 5 weapons shine, while the PA-C15 finds its limit. But here's the reality. For a more technical, methodical playstyle where you prefer clearing hordes with control instead of chaos, the PA-C15 is one of the best choices in the game. It rewards the player who aims well, who doesn't panic, and who keeps a cool head even with 10 mutants on screen. If that's your profile, you'll feel completely at home with it in your hand. There are weapons in the game you use because they are practical, and there are weapons you use because they make you feel powerful in a way no other can replicate. The railgun clearly falls into the second category. When you finally get your hands on a gold tier weapon for the first time, there's that involuntary pause. You look at it on the screen and think, okay, now the tables have turned. And with the railgun, that feeling is completely justified. What defines it above everything else is the piercing damage. We're not talking about a shot that hits one enemy and stops. We're talking about a projectile that tears through everything in the front line and continues to cause havoc on the other side. In boss battles, this completely changes the dynamic of the fight. You're not just surviving, you're effectively dismantling the enemy with surgical precision, and that feeling is priceless. 6th place exists because the railgun has a high cost to be utilized to its full potential. The fire rate is slow, ammo is scarce, and the process of acquiring and maintaining a gold tier weapon in the game requires dedication. Outside of boss fights or elite enemies, you'll frequently prefer to save your shots rather than spend them on a common horde, which means much of the time it sits in your inventory waiting for the right moment. But when that moment arrives, there's nothing like it. The railgun is one of the most satisfying experiences Toxic Commando offers the player, the kind that makes you shout at your monitor. It deserved a higher spot for the pure impact it causes, but the limitation of practical day-to-day use in the game is too real to ignore. It's the type of weapon you never discard from your inventory because you know its time will come, and when it does, it delivers everything. There's a type of player in Toxic Commando who doesn't want to stop, doesn't want to hide behind cover, doesn't want to calculate every shot. They want to run, gun, dodge, and keep the tempo high from start to finish. If you identified with that description, the Keris V10 was made specifically for you. It's not just a weapon, it's a statement of playstyle, fast, aggressive, and impatient with those who like to play slow. Its fire rate is a spectacle on its own. You pull the trigger and the Keris spits projectiles at a rhythm that makes any nearby enemy think twice before approaching. Combined with the mobility it offers, being lightweight and not compromising your movement speed, it transforms your character into something much more like a predator than someone just trying to survive. For the run-and-gun style, it is simply the most natural choice in the game. What keeps it in 5th place is the range. The Keris V10 lives and dies in short to mid-range, and when you need to deal with distant enemies or situations requiring sustained damage on a single tough target, you start to feel its limitations. The individual damage per shot isn't the most impressive. What it has in abundance and speed, it trades off in punch, and in certain game situations, that carries a lot of weight. But in the right context, especially for those playing as the defender who need a weapon that keeps up with the class's fast pace, the Karis V10 is simply addictive to use. There's something very satisfying about maintaining a constant flow of fire while moving through the map without stopping. It's the kind of weapon that changes how you perceive the game. You stop playing in survival mode and start playing in offensive mode, and that shift in mindset makes all the difference. There's a classic fantasy in shooters that never gets old: identifying the threat before it gets close enough to be a problem, aiming calmly, and resolving everything with a single precise shot. The MK110 is exactly that fantasy materialized within Toxic Commando. It represents a game philosophy completely different from what you use day to day, and that's exactly why it stands out so much in the ranking. Its damage per shot is something that needs to be experienced to be fully understood. Special enemies that would normally give you trouble, requiring half a box of ammo from your primary weapon, simply disappear from the screen with one or two well-placed shots from the MK110. And when you max it out, the game reaches another level. The damage numbers hit a point that transforms enemies who would be mini-bosses into obstacles you discard before they even feel your presence on the field. What puts it in fourth place and not higher is the practical reality of the hordes. Toxic Commando isn't a game that always gives you the luxury of working from a distance calmly. There are moments when enemies arrive from all sides at once, and in those times, the MK110 forces you to switch weapons or deal with the slowness between shots in a way that can be fatal. It is devastating in its element, but outside of it, you feel the weight of its limitations quite directly. But here's the point that makes it special. Mastering the MK110 transforms you into a smarter player. You start to read the field differently, identifying priority threats before reacting in panic, understanding that preventing is much more efficient than curing in high-pressure situations. It's not just a powerful weapon, it's a tool that changes how you think about the game. And players who understand this get a level of performance out of it that makes fourth place here almost an injustice. I'll tell you something any experienced Toxic Commando player will confirm. No matter how good your loadout is, no matter how many gold tier weapons you have in your inventory, when a special mutant comes through your door and you're 2 meters away from it, the only name that will cross your mind is Taiga 1-2. It's not just a shotgun, it's the most brutal and direct answer the game offers for anything that gets too close to you. Its short-range DPS is simply obscene. Every shot from the Taiga 1-2 delivers a massive amount of damage that few weapons in the game can match in the same time frame, and against special mutants, who typically have high health pools and abilities that can get you into trouble quickly, it functions as a delete button. 3 well-placed shots, and the problem is solved before it has a chance to cause you serious harm. This completely changes how you manage the game's priority threats. Third place, to be honest, is a reflection of only one real limitation: range. The Taiga 1-2 is so specialized in short range that when the game puts you in open arenas or situations where enemies are scattered at a distance, you'll need another weapon in your loadout to cover that gap. It's not versatile in the traditional sense. It's absurdly good at one specific thing, and outside that territory, it loses relevance fast. But within its role, the Taiga 1-2 deserves every bit of the S tier status it carries. There's a visceral pleasure in using a shotgun that really makes you feel the weight of every shot, giving you that feeling of total control even when the situation seems desperate. It's the kind of weapon that creates memories. Those impossible situations where you were cornered, surrounded, with no way out, and the Taiga 1-2 cleared the path alone. If you don't have it as part of your fixed loadout yet, you're playing Toxic Commando on hard mode unnecessarily. Second place. Think carefully about what that means. In a game packed with incredible weapons, with options that have already made you feel powerful at various times, the ACW 2-0 fell behind only 1, and if you've had the chance to use it on a large horde, you already know exactly why this ranking is no surprise. It doesn't just clear the field, it redefines what clearing the field means within Toxic Commando. The area damage of the ACW 2-0 is something that puts it in a completely separate category from any other weapon in the game. While you're calculating how many shots you'll spend on each enemy with other weapons, the ACW 2-0 is resolving entire groups of mutants with 1 or 2 explosive bursts. It doesn't matter if it's 5 enemies or 20. If they're grouped up, they are the same problem, and it treats that problem with efficiency that borders on the absurd. It's the kind of weapon that makes you laugh while playing because it feels unfair how good it is. What keeps it in second place instead of the top is a combination of ammo management and the risk of self-damage it carries. Explosives in a game where enemies are sometimes literally stuck to you is a double-edged sword. You're going to hurt yourself, you're going to waste precious ammo in moments of panic, where a more precise shot would have solved it with less cost. Mastering the ACW 2-0 means learning to respect its minimum range, and that learning comes at a price you'll pay a few times before internalizing it. But when you understand how to use it correctly, the whole game feels easier. Hordes that once gave you anxiety become opportunities. You almost hope more enemies show up at once because you know the ACW 2-0 is going to shine exactly then. It's the weapon that transforms the game's chaos into something you control instead of just reacting to. And that feeling of total dominance over the battlefield is what makes it S tier without any discussion. First place, the best weapon in John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. And you know what's most interesting about that? It doesn't reach the top by being the most powerful in one specific situation. The railgun does more damage in a single shot. The Taiga 1-2 is more devastating at short range. The ACW 2-0 clears hordes in a more spectacular way. The HW416 is here because it is better than any other weapon in practically every situation simultaneously, and in a game as unpredictable as this, that versatility has a value that outweighs any specialization. What makes the HW416 so extraordinary is the perfect balance between damage, fire rate, recoil control, and magazine capacity. At short range, it sustains pressure. At mid-range, it is precise. And at long range, it remains relevant when many other weapons have already lost their utility. You don't have to keep thinking, this situation calls for another weapon. With the HW416 in hand, the answer to almost any threat the game throws in your face is simply to shoot with confidence and trust the process. What's most impressive is how it scales when you invest in it. Every upgrade applied to the HW416 makes a noticeable difference in performance. It's not a weapon that hits a ceiling early and stops growing. It tracks with your progress in the game, becoming more lethal as you advance, and reaching the hardest stages still being the smartest choice in the loadout.